So this video is going to talk about the distributive property and combining like terms, which are two very, very important concepts here, especially when you get into starting to solve equations and doing things like that. You always want to make sure that your equation or your expression is simplified, and you do that by combining like terms and taking care of distributive property. So quick overview of distributive property. This is what the rule looks like here. You have your A sitting on the outside of the parentheses. It can represent a number, a variable. But what that essentially means is you're taking that A and you're multiplying it to everything inside the parentheses. A times the B, which you see right over here. Move over the plus sign, and then A times the C. Okay? So whatever's sitting on the outside of the parentheses is going to get multiplied into everything on the inside. So that's typically the first thing that you look at when it comes to simplifying these kind of expressions. You always want to start with, does it have parentheses? If it has parentheses, you want to start with that first. So think about PEMDAS. When you do PEMDAS, parentheses always comes first. Kind of similar thing going on here. And we can see here examples B, C, D all have parentheses in the problem. So we're going to be taking care of that distributive property first. After we take care of distributive property, then we look for combining like terms, which I call the matching game, because when it comes to combining like terms, you are matching up like variables, right? So your variables are your letters. Match up an X with an X, Y with a Y, A with an A, right? They have to be exactly the same, and as long as they are, you can combine them together by adding them together. And that's what we're going to do with example A. There are no parentheses in example A. We can use, we can go straight to combining like terms. So first we want to match up. So if I'm looking at example A, I see that I have an X and an X here. I have a Y along with a Y. So we're going to group like things together. So think about it as, here I have two X's. I'm going to add 8 X's to it. So if I have 2 of them and then I add 8 of them, I now have 10 X's in all. So 2X plus 8X is 10X. 2 plus 8 is 10. Drop down the X with it. And we're going to do the same thing with the Y's. 5 Y's plus 6 Y's. 5 plus 6 is 11 Y. And that's it. That's your answer for that problem here. All we're doing is simplifying, combining like things and bringing them together. If we look at example B, we should notice here we have our sets of parentheses. We have the 2 sitting up on the outside of the parentheses. So that means we're going to take that 2 and multiply it to everything on the inside of the parentheses. We have 1, 2, 3 terms on the inside, so we're going to be doing 3 multiplications. Starting with 2 times the 5x. 2 times 5 is 10. Drop down the x with it. It's just there for the ride. Then do the next multiplication. 2 times the 3 gives us 6. Tack on the y with it. And then 2 times the 10 gives us 20. Whenever you do the distributive property, you want to get in the habit of always looking over your problem to see if you have any like terms. But if I look at all 3 terms here, one is an X, one is a Y, one is a number. None of those match up, so that is our final answer there. Moving on to example C, we do have parentheses, so I need to start there first. On the outside of the parentheses, I have this minus. Now understand that this minus is the same thing as a -1. It has the same concept. So technically we don't see a number in front of the parentheses. We are still multiplying here because that's understood to be a -1, and that -1 needs to be multiplied to everything on the inside of the parentheses. Now this 5x over here is not on the inside of this parentheses, has nothing to do with this negative and what's on the inside of the parentheses. So that 5x, I'm just going to drop down for right now. I'm not going to mess with it. I need to take care of the parentheses first, specifically by distributing the -1. -1 times 3 gives me a -3. Tack on the x with it. -1 times -15. Negative times negative is positive. 1 times 15 is 15. Look over your problem to see if you have any like terms. We have an x, a number. X and x match up. They're the same thing. So if I have 5 x's and I subtract 3 x's, 5 minus 3 is 2 x's. And then just drop down that 15 hanging out at the back. Last problem here, we have 2 sets of parentheses, so that means we're going to distribute twice. First we're going to distribute by the 4, then we're going to distribute by the -7. Starting with the 4, we're going to do 4 times the x. 4 times x is just 4x. Remember, there's understood to be a 1 in front of the x, so it's technically 4 times that 1, which is just 4. The x drops down. 4 times negative 3 is a negative 12. Move over to distribute the negative 7. Negative 7 times x is just a negative 7x. And negative 7 times 8 is a negative 56. Look for like terms. We have an x, a number, an x, a number. That means x and x matches up. Number and number matches up. Combine them together. 4 x's minus 7 of them. So I have 4 minus 7, which is a negative 3x. Negative 12 minus 56. So if I have negative 12 and then a negative 56, that is a total of a negative 68 when I combine those together. Do remember your sign rules. So negative 3x minus 68 as my final answer. That's it for this video.